Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios. You know what it is. Security Happy Hour. And it's going to be an amazing episode because I don't know if you noticed, but I have named myself the executive assistant to the Cyber Queens. No, but anyway, so it's going to be an amazing episode. And if you stick with us for just a little bit, we'll be right back. And we're back. And yes, it is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. With me, as always, my partner in crime, my friend, my brother, el señor jefe de seguridad, Eric Bernardo. Eric, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. How's everybody doing today? It's going to be a wonderful episode today. We've got some awesome guests here, and it's going to be just amazing. So stay tuned.
Yes, definitely. It is going to be amazing because today we have with us the Cyber Queens. Now, I don't know if anybody keeps up with me or Maril or Erika or Nathalie, but I got to be honest, it's crazy because I've talked to Maril and how she is working with Erika and Nathalie to put this together. But before we get into the podcast itself that's coming out in 6 days, why don't we do some introductions for those who don't know everybody? And we'll start with Erika, who is right above me. Erika, please introduce yourself to everybody that's watching.
Hey, my name is Erika Eakins. I am a cyber queen. Thank you so much for joining. I am a slightly technical sales rep in the cyber field, and I know my cyber queens are going to punch me because I say that every episode. But literally, I'm actually technical. I just play the dumb person in the room. Happy to be here. Can't wait for you guys to join next week. I've been in the industry for about 12 years.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, Erika, we're definitely going to hear more because I do know you're more technical than you're letting on. Maril, who has been on this show before, this is her second time on. And now we've got a whole cohort of people here, thanks to the wonderful work that you three are doing. So, Maril, for those who didn't catch your original episode, please give us a little bit of an introduction.
Yes, my name is Maril Vernon, also known as She Who Hacks, and I did multiply. I found cohorts, of course I did. And I'm currently a red teamer / offensive security engineer. I'm currently working as a purple team lead for a government contracting entity. So I did break away from red team operating into purple team program management, one of the passions that are near and dear to my heart, next to things like the gender gap. So for those of you who aren't familiar with my story, I came from a non-technical background a little over 3 years ago, kind of blasted through the echelons of pen testing and eventually worked my way up to like a FANG size level red team. And now here I am today.
Yeah, Maril kind of blew me off for a little while because she was like, oh, I'll help you with marketing and do all this stuff with you. And then she was like, hey, by the way, I got this new red team job. I'll talk to you in a year and a half.
I wanted to. I stopped doing my lives too on LinkedIn because it was just too much. Everyone's like, you disappeared. Your last video was a year ago. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you all.
Yeah, you just went dark. You were just like, you know what? See you later.
I dropped hard.
We love you, Maril.
And look who joined us.
We've got Philip Wiley in the house. Philip, thanks for joining us. Look, and that goes for everybody else. We've got our usual the usual crowd. We've got Jess Bishop, Daniel Helma, Mary is in there, Eula's here. I hope I didn't pronounce that wrong. Brad, Juan, so many of the usual suspects, Leonardo. So thank you all. And we got Makeshift. Nice. She finally found time to join us.
Hey.
But hey, seriously, thank you all for joining us today. And let's get to our final introduction. Nathalie, how are you doing today? Give us a little.
I'm doing well. So I'm Nathalie Baker. I am actually a Security Operations Center manager. So I am all things blue team. We do everything. I work for an MSSP. So we do everything from just SIEM evaluation or SIEM, looking at people's SIEMs to anywhere to, doing GRC, more GRC side of the house.
You're one of them people. You say SIEM.
Sim.
It's spelled that way.
I say Sim. I say Sim.
I'm a simmer.
Yeah. And I've
saying.
worked on them. I was an engineer for a while. I worked on those. But no, it's awesome to have you here, Nathalie, and having the variety of people that we do, because we get all sides of the house, which is, if I'm not misunderstanding, the whole premise, well, one of the premises behind the Cyber Queens is being able to offer the different viewpoints that you're able to do. So pick your order, whoever wants to speak up first.
Meryl.
How did the Cyber Queens come about?
Well, okay, so actually Nathalie should start with that one.
All right. So it started off with a LinkedIn post that was very vague. And it was like, we need more women in cyber. And I was like, that's very vague. That's not helpful. What are we doing about this problem? So like, then I just started going trolling through comments like I do on LinkedIn. Like that's my usual pastime, happy hour. That's what I do. That's how I entertain myself. So I'm trolling through some comments and I found Erika's comment, and it just happened to be very similar to the philosophy that I have, is we have to look into the next generation. Like women are already a plan B by the time they're transitioning into their career now in cyber for millennials, but Gen Z is where we're going to actually get that gap bridged at.
Definitely.
Correct.
I completely agree with that. And we'll dig in more to that. But since Erika voluntold Maril initially, let's get Maril's take on it.
Ooh!
Yeah, well, I was actually the last queen to be brought on. Like Nathalie mentioned, she and Erika met first in the comments of said LinkedIn post, and Nathalie brought me in after. I guess Nathalie has been following my content. Yay me! And
yeah, I was a fangirl for sure.
So she thought I would make a great addition. She was like, hey, like I'm getting something off the ground. I think you'd make an epic addition. I'm like, I'll partner with anyone who thinks I'll be an epic anything to anything. So great. And she started telling me the premise, and I was like, cool, that sounds awesome. But like, what is your angle? What makes you unique? Like, why you? Like, what is your hot take on this issue? Like, I agree it's an issue, but like, how are you going to purport it? And she was like, yeah, we could use some help with that. So I was like, oh, good. This is my skill set. And yeah, the Cyber Queens was created to address the gender and diversity gap. So we are here to not only represent diversity in cyber, because we've got blue team, red team, yellow team perspectives, but also to give diverse perspectives from like the neurodiversity to ethnic diversity to LGBTQ diversity. We just are sick of looking around, con panels and speaker lineups and seeing, no offense to you two gentlemen who are lovely, but, more of the same. We want to see where the women like us are. I'm like, why is it so hard to find women cyber besties? It shouldn't be this hard. Like, we're out here and we're kicking ass and we're doing a good job. Like, we should be able to do stuff together. So, that's why our tagline is building the sisterhood of cyber. And again, I say this in the episode, it's not an exclusive sisterhood. It's an inclusive sisterhood. You can be an ally. You can be a non-binary sister. You can be an affiliate sibling. But we just want to help bring more of this voice and more of the non-technical people and the alternate route people into cyber, because we think cyber only benefits at the end of the day.
I love it. I do. And I'm gonna give my viewpoint, but this really is the Cyber Queens taking over my show. So we're gonna let Erika go next and give her viewpoint on it.
So, I've been in the industry, 12 years, like I said, but I came on the sales side because, that's just what I do. I have a personality in sales, and I originally lived in the Midwest, and there was no women in cyber. There's been women in IT, but in cyber specifically, I was always the only female rep, the only female anything everywhere. So when I actually came and moved to the West Coast, because I'm in Colorado now, I realized that the West Coast is a little more open, and we do have a lot more women that are in cyber, but it's really still a huge gap. And like Nathalie said, I was actually trolling in the comments as well. It was a very vague post, and we started talking, and we have the same ideas, the same viewpoints, but everybody talks about this and they do nothing about it. So it's great. We need more women in cyber. We need more diversity. Somebody in the comments wrote Hispanics in cyber. That is great. What are we doing about it? And even still, as you all know, the last 2 years has been hell for all of us, but companies are jumping on the D&I, a chief of D&I. We need more diversity. We need more of this. But I still am not seeing them take action. So Nathalie and I started talking, and we were, getting somewhere with the idea, talking, and then she introduced Maril. She said, "Hey, I got somebody else that I want you to meet." Immediately when she brought Maril in, I said, "Yes, this is what we need." What does that say? What's that?
Natalie, it is cyber. It is Eric's organization. That is where Latins and Cyber.
Good. Yay.
Yes. Well,
we'll have you on the show and
Yes,
do
we
an
will.
ally episode. That will be awesome.
Yeah. So
Natalie
what you asked a couple of things. So I'm going to tell you some. So women make up less than 24% of the cybersecurity workforce.
Accurate.
Hispanics, Latinos, Latinas, and Latinx, 4%.
All genders combined.
All genders combined.
Yes.
Yeah, it's sad.
Women,
It is.
Latinas and Latinx is even less than 1%. So we created Raíces Cyber to increase the representation of Hispanics, Latinas, and Latinx in the field of cyber. And we are just 1 year old today.
Oh, today?
Happy birthday!
Wow!
Happy birthday! Amazing.
Cheers.
Not only that,
we're definitely gonna have to
ask, what are we doing? There you go.
Yes.
You go.
Yep. Cheers.
What are we doing? Today, I'm announcing that Raíces Cyber has a seat at the table at 2 different organizations. Number 1, the White House Diversity Council under the National Security Directive.
Huge.
Amazing.
That's huge.
Number 2,
Amazing.
we are part of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for RSA conference for next year.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Wonderful work.
So, as I was explaining, what are we doing about it? We have STEM program because somebody challenged me and they said, well, we have STEM. But really, does STEM sit there and talk about Hispanics in, technology positions? Everybody wants to, when they're little, go into be like a doctor or a lawyer, but nobody talks about, hey, be an engineer, because you'll see on one of the episodes I talk about, everybody thinks we just sit here with a hoodie and we're not we're not persons, I should say, and we're nerdy. But cyber is not nerdy. IT is not nerdy. So Natalie and I were both kind of doing things in our own regions, on our own, going to schools and having conversations with people, but it's still not enough. Everybody talks about it, but they do nothing about it. So I love what you guys are doing. Congratulations for that. We would love to have you on an episode in the future, but that's how the Cyber Queens were born. What are we doing? Let's just not complain about it and let's make change.
Yeah. And really, like Natalie said, a lot of people show up to cyber as a plan B career. I think all of us, but Erika did. And she's even, she's been in sales her whole tenure, but not cyber sales. But it's just a lot of us think, and I'm actually trying to get my mom on the cyber train. I'm trying to get her trained up in GRC because she's mostly an admin person, right? She's always led customer service teams or people teams or something like that. And I'm like, Mom, I'm sick of seeing you work for people who suck. And you could work in cyber. You could be a GRC or a privacy specialist. She's like, I can't do that, Maril. I can't do what you and your dad do. I'm not cut out for it. I was like, yes, you can. Yes, you can be. You absolutely can. So I just feel like that's what we tell ourselves our whole lives. If I do that, I'm going to be seen as nerdy. And don't get me wrong, we're nerds. I'm a big nerd. But you can be a nerd and look however
I'm a nerd.
Look. Yeah. I am a shoe whore. I have so many pairs of shoes.
Nerdy girls are awesome. This is true.
If anybody that knows me, they knows I'm a girly girl. We are nerdy, but we can still be a normal human.
Yeah.
But that's everybody.
It's not limits for any of you. Any of you could pick this up tomorrow. Look at me. 3 years ago, I was managing social media accounts professionally. And now I'm a red teamer.
Hey,
amazing.
I asked you to help with mine, and you said, sure.
I did say sure.
Is he going to do this the entire episode?
I love messing. Look, Maril got on me and Erika and Natalie yesterday because my time, I think it was
our time.
Our time, it was 10 o'clock or something like that.
Yep.
By the time Maril woke up, it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and she had 80 messages to sift through on LinkedIn.
Yeah, guilty.
4 years in the military did not make me a morning person. Okay, when I wake up, I speak troll for the first 2 hours of consciousness. I need like 3 hours for English to boot up and like to load up and short-term memory. I'm like,
I get up at 4, go to the gym by 5. So, I'm in Mountain Standard Time, so I'm just
You're
responding. And Meryl's still sleeping at the time. She's like, dude, you guys have so many messages.
I know, I wake up, I'm like, what the
fuck? So Mary just put up, and I'll put it back up for everybody. She was the first girl to ever be in IT at her organization. And now they got 2 more, so they're up to 3, which is amazing. And here's one of the here's one of the things that I want to bring to your attention. SOC 2s are also staffed with about half men, half women.
Good.
That's awesome.
50-50.
Yes.
I want to bring this up, and I brought it up in probably an improper way before. Actually, I know it was improper on how I stated it, but I know I still got to apologize. Actually, let me do that now publicly on live video. Tanisha, I love you. I'm sorry. Truly, the way I came off that episode with her was wrong. So I apologize.
You owned it. You're owning it, so it's all good.
Accountability.
But one of the things that I talked about in the like I said, the way I approached it was wrong. But I want to ask the question: podcasts are great. I actually seen a Twitter post earlier about trying to bring podcasts more to the forefront, which I think is awesome because I think our attention spans are so limited now due to TikTok and just everything else. We don't pay attention. So getting people that more radio story and listening and actually active listening to things is a huge benefit and can bring knowledge to more people.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of hitting Gen Z, like Nathalie said, is there a way, as the Cyber Queens, as everybody in chat, as myself who goes to schools and does this, to reach the schools? So can we send a podcast and reach out to schools and be like, hey, promote, like, this podcast is for everybody. I want everybody to know about this. So actually reaching out to the schools or going to the schools and kind of pushing that forward.
And a lot of that, from my perspective, it's going to start off very locally at first. Like maybe we can get girls who code chapters, but then there's also like high school programs that aren't affiliated with other programs that are out there to help them build girls who code. So like, there might be a school that doesn't have that, getting that out there and getting those teachers talking to each other, to say the teachers that are running those programs saying, hey, I have this really cool podcast that you can actually, if you need somebody to be a guest speaker or something, you can just like go watch one of their podcasts or something like that. That's at least my interpretation of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of really slow evangelism. Like we're not really educationally supplemental material. We're not like, teaching people certain cyber skills or cloud native skills or whatever, like in the podcast. It's more just like an awareness thing. And like we really just want to, dispel the myths for them. Like everyone's like, what's it like to work in cyber? Like, what is it really like? What do you really do? What does your day consist of? What does the landscape look like? Who are the people you deal with? What are the functions that are there? Like when I first got in, I thought pen testing was it. Like, and I ended up here and I love it. And like, this is where I'm meant to be. But like, I didn't even know what the other options were besides that and audit. So we're just here to like educate overall and spark the interest and then point them to the place where they can get those skills developed. But maybe hopefully if a professor or a teacher sees value in the content and it's like, hey, if you're not sure, why don't you check this out? Maybe cyber's for you. Maybe something in cyber is for you. Go listen to this podcast and like if they plant a seed, if they light something up in you, or if they've said something that you find interesting, bring it back to me and we can discuss. So maybe they can use it like that to start a conversation. We hope, and we hope that they honestly start conversations with each other. Like, dude, like, I don't want to be a nurse. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to go into the military. Like, what can I do? Like, I'm thinking of cyber. I heard these ladies who make it sound fun and awesome, and maybe you should listen and try it. That's really what we're hoping for.
And one of the things that we need to do is, I say this all the time, we have a very bad PR problem in the field of cyber. Because people say to us, I want to learn cyber. Well, cyber's a career field. There's 50 or 60 different types of jobs.
What?
So getting people to understand that cybersecurity is a field, not a job, is important. And being able to tell, it's not just the students or the people that are coming in, is telling those teachers and those what are they called, the
Mentors.
helpers, the mentors in the schools that are saying, yeah, well, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be the, let's teach them that there is this whole field
Yes.
that school counselors was what I was thinking.
Oh, the counselors. Yeah.
The counselors.
Uh-huh.
I've been going and talking to counselors and saying, look, this is something that you can show your students. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're a disabled, if you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, if you're anything. It doesn't matter. In the field of cyber, once we're in, we're all one person. We're all one thing. You know, we don't differentiate. It doesn't require you to be X, Y, or Z. So it's important that we disperse, you know, we get the message across to other people. So, and what you're doing is wonderful for that, especially because women don't get told that they can be in these fields.
Nope.
We know that they can be successful anyway. Like a lot of times, if it is like they're the pun of the joke, but it's not really that. It's like we can be successful in this field. We're not just in it. We're successful in it.
You mean you don't want to go and do, you know, what was it called before, where you did the cooking and the cleaning?
Yeah.
A homemaker.
So, and here's my thing behind it, is, and we talk about this a lot, is the diversity of thought and seeing how different people are brought up and things of that nature. So I had an argument with someone. Well, not really an argument. It was
always have arguments.
Heated conversation.
I'm here to have
because the topic came up of representation. And I said, here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and say there's not women in cyber, and it I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes it irks me when it's like, we need women in cyber. We do. But how is it being presented? And how is it being presented? We need more.
Right.
Because it's diversity of thought. It's not we need, this person because they're white or black or green or blue or whatever. It's we need the different thought processes and the different people being brought up. But when you talk about representation, if you are not actively going out, and it sucks to say this, but if you're not actively going out and talking to people in person, how can they see that representation when it's not on TV? And we got to be honest. The representation of the different career fields is not on TV.
It's not.
So it's up to us to say that.
People want to see themselves represented. For the first 20 years of my career, and I've been doing cybersecurity for 33 years, okay? For the first 20 years of my career, there was nobody that looked like this in there.
You're right.
Every boardroom that I was in, there was nobody that looked like this, okay? I'm originally from Puerto Rico, okay? So nobody. And the same thing with women. The same thing with every single other group is people want to see themselves represented. So you guys in the podcast and being able to show that women are a powerful force and that they are in this field is very powerful. And it's not just, it's not, and sometimes it's not just what you guys say as experts. It's being able to be seen as a woman in the field, leading the charge. And I applaud you guys for doing that.
Thank you. I actually say in one of our episodes, I talk about how, you know, Gen Z, they are very in the now. Like they're, you know, world news is current news. And when we talk about them coming to the workforce, they want to see people that are either look like them or have the same beliefs. And I say exactly, if you have the typical old white guy on your executive team with nothing else, and that is not to bash white men, I am not bashing races, I am not bashing men, but if a Gen Zer or the generation after them comes to Gen Alpha if they see just the typical old white guy as a, board member or even executive, how does that speak diversity? You say you have a D&I board, but it's
I
just,
kicked them out.
they don't look
Don't
like
worry.
that.
I know. I'm like, what is God?
That was Eric. Eric's an asshole. I'll just have you know. And look, let me point something out here. And Maril should remember this. Y'all have free reign to say whatever the fuck you want. This is my show. I do what the hell I want.
All right.
So
Well, if
feel free to go for it.
If you don't have diversity on your executive board, leadership, management, you are not going to have the Gen Zers come to your company, because if you have a D&I VP who's Hispanic or Puerto Rican, and trust me, I have a daughter that is half Puerto Rican, and she knows when she doesn't fit in, even though she's half white. She doesn't want to be there because she feels out of place. We're from the Chicagoland area. And when we moved to Colorado, we were kind of shocked because it's like 90 in the high 90% white. And she was like, I don't feel right here. And I did bring her to a community where it's over 51% Hispanic. And she's like, she's going to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. And there's no women, there's very low women in that field and very low Hispanic women. My point for my little rant is, if you don't have people that look like the Gen Zers because they don't see color or race, you are not going to attract them. And they are going to be the largest workforce so far coming. And after that, it's going to be Gen Alpha. You guys are going to be fucked.
Yeah.
I hate to say it that way, but we talk about this in our podcast because it's not just about women in cyber. It's about the entire generation, the boomers and the Gen Xers. They're leaving. So what are you going to do?
It's a finite number. It's a finite number of the Gen Z, the Gen X and the boomers that we're, and I'm sorry, I'm 50 years old, it's a finite number. So when companies are looking for those people in security and stuff, we keep on getting stolen from company to company. There's no more of us. We need to start looking at like we say in Raices, the next generation of cyber defenders.
Yeah, not just that we hit our quota for,
well, and that is so. In talking to Eric, and he has corrected me on many of occasions, and actually it came up with Stacy Champagne from Hacker and Heels, is that has been a big part of the pushback is, we have to hire just to have diversity, not to have.
No, you
and
don't.
That has
That's
been part
bullshit.
of the mindset.
As a
it is.
It's complete bullshit.
It is bullshit.
I am a hiring manager, and I never once have ever had to hire just for diversity. I've hired the best person for
but
the
a
job.
lot of companies do it.
Let me tell you a short story. When I started, equal employment and affirmative action were still there.
Yeah.
You had to hire a certain number of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
When I went to school, I got accepted into 20 universities. Sorry, I applied for 20. I got accepted into 17. The 3 ones that denied me, the quotas for Puerto Rican were filled.
What? And did they say that?
That's crazy. That's like lawsuit material there.
Okay.
It's true though.
I just want to hear a few things.
And I will name them: University of Central Florida, University of Florida, so South Florida, and Miami U.
Well, we're over here.
Please, thank you for calling that out, because I will not be sending my half Puerto Rican child there for medical school.
But that was illegal in the 80s.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was made illegal in the 90s. But that's how it was. Now companies are doing either a good DEI program where they're saying, let's bring in
everybody,
people that are of diverse backgrounds.
Well, why did it take for the last 2 years for that to happen? And not to cut you off, this is what pisses me off. The last 2 years, everybody wants to do it now.
So let me touch on that. Let me touch on that one.
Popular.
Because we see it for all the different months.
It's trendy.
It's a corporate stunt to make money. So when you look at June, look at Gay Pride Month, or July, June.
Oh, yep. We're hiring.
Look at Gay Pride Month. Everybody has a rainbow logo all of a sudden.
But they don't give a shit. That's the problem.
No, exactly. And so when it comes to DEI and all these things are doing, It is a corporate and a stunt to make money, to stay in the positive light, when in reality, it doesn't always work that way. You still have the people that are hiring their friends, their family, or they look like me.
And I've been told that I was the diversity hire in an interview.
Yeah, we touch on that as an entire topic. We touch on like the fact that just because you want to do D&I does not, or DEI does not mean that like you just make people the diversity hire, and like kind of how you navigate when that is admitted to you. Because it was admitted to me at one point too. I worked on a red team of 8 people and I was the only female. Like for once I wasn't the only millennial and the only female. That was nice. Or other people might. But like, my first tech meetup I ever went to, like I was brand new to my Infosec department and I was still the risk analyst like 3 years ago. And they're like, Veryl's new, send her as the sacrificial lamb, because they didn't want to go. And I went, I was texting my parents and I was like, not only am I the only female, I'm the only person here under the age of 50. Like there is no one who looks like me here. And I was also the spunkiest, most outspoken person. So, I just got to say also, for those of you who are about to point this out in the comments or at a later point in time, we acknowledge the fact fully that we talk about diversity and we want to represent diversity. And we are 3 white women who started a podcast.
Correct.
That is not beyond our notice. But we did it because, unfortunately, as women, the ones who are probably going to be at the forefront to be able to hold the voices for others and hold that spotlight are people who look like us. But we're trying to pay it forward and we're trying to give back and we're trying to equal it out. But don't please hate on us for being all white women. We're gonna try and get some more diversity on the show.
Well, let me tell you. Sometimes, and I've explained this in several episodes, is we need our allies. Yep. We all, female, male, any diversity, equity, and inclusion is we need our allies, because sometimes. And I've learned this over my career, and this happens in cyber. Sometimes people get blind to the same message being told by the same person. So sometimes you've got to pass it on to your ally and say, can you tell this to that person? So that's where the allyship comes to bear. Look at my board. My board for Rise of Cyber. Actually, it turned out that it's all women and 60% is white. Okay. And you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't care if you call me whitewashed or whatever the heck you want to call me.
It's crazy that happens.
These are people that support what you're doing.
Right.
Yes.
You support the diversity of women. And that's what makes your podcast very powerful, is supporting that. 24% of women in cyber is a very low number.
Yeah,
it is.
So,
yeah. Well, we appreciate that.
We appreciate that. And as we've been, getting this started up and recording, I see some women, we do talk about toxic women in the industry. And I recently saw a post on LinkedIn about, I'm tired of hearing women blaming men for their lack of, career advancement in their career. And this was a female CISO in the tech industry.
I saw that post.
And I'm not going to name her. And she just goes on about
she's like, it's on you. If you're not advancing, it's your fault. And they're not holding you back. You're holding you back.
Right. Okay. So you saw that.
Yeah.
And that, I don't get triggered. It did not trigger me, but it made me think, okay, so are we really, being ranty and complaining on the podcast? What is my response to that? And I did not actually respond to that post, but I read the comments. Like Natalie said, I trolled. And everybody's like, thank you. I appreciate it. But it was all men that said, thank you. I appreciate it. And nothing against men, again, but it is not, we are not saying that men hold us back. But I am going to tell you that there are leaders in the industry that hire women and minorities, and then they are threatened by their advancement and they treat them horribly. So they either, get them to leave or go somewhere else, or just, we put up with it because we don't want to job hop. But the toxic woman thing is also an issue, not just in cyber, but everywhere. But since this is a cyber podcast, I was so irate because I'm like, You know, that's like the same thing as people saying every woman fucks her way to the top. And excuse my language, but that pisses
You
me
ain't
off.
gonna say that on here. There's no excusing your language.
I'm just
go for it.
saying.
But I want to touch on that though, real quick, because I do know that is a common
Wrong choice of
misconception.
words after saying "fucks to the top." Okay, gonna touch on that. No.
So
I have
it's a
to be
common
nice.
misconception because I've met Maril. I've met so many great people, and yes, don't get me wrong. I will full-heartedly admit I have sat there and met some dumb motherfuckers, both male and female, where I'm like, how the fuck did you get here? How the hell are you in the position you're in?
Both sides.
And honestly, when I see a female, that's the first thing that comes to mind. When I see a woman that is as dumb as a brick, but somehow has a position way higher than me, I'm like,
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but we all
I'm kind of curious how you got here. But the flip side of that is this: the strong women that can make it, that do make it, that sit there and push and drive and prove everybody wrong. Those are the ones that deserve to be where they're at. But it is the toxic women, which, let me just say, growing up with 3 older sisters, a mom, and having a wife now, I've had no brothers, and I got 5 boys now. But growing up with that,
you guys,
I have seen toxic women, and I've seen it online, where they bring other women down because they're afraid of their success.
Women
are harder
on women than men.
They're harder on women. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on, because Jess says a lot of the toxic women are the ones that spread the rumors, but toxic women sometimes are worse than toxic. I know that this is
very true.
I know that this is a kind of touchy subject, but I would like to know each one of you what your thought is on this.
Spoiler, it's an entire episode, okay?
An entire episode.
All right, give me the cliff notes so that they have to listen to your episode, Maril. Give me the cliff notes.
I will personally say I've dealt with more toxic women situations than I have with sexism from men situations, where a woman was unsure of my technical opinion because she didn't have technical knowledge, but she was in a position that was high enough to make decisions that were technical decisions. And I was sitting here like, this is bad news blues for us. This is really not good for us here. So, and I've had it happen at like 3 or 4 different places. So it's very common within the field.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that and say that it's absolutely true. Like, women will be way harder on other women than men are on us. Want to know why? Because we're already hard on ourselves. Like, you don't have to punish women. Women will punish themselves mentally over the tiniest thing that you probably didn't notice but sticks out to us. And additionally, women feel like if I had to struggle in the fucking trenches to get here, then you get to prove you deserve to be here with me by struggling twice as hard. And I'm like, why? Why are we doing that? No, I want it to be easier for you, better for you. Like, I want you to, if I did it in 3 years, I want you to do it in 1. I want you to whoop my ass. I want you to show up and challenge me to meet you and be better.
Yep.
So I'm going to go this route. So I have a hard enough time as it is in sales, walking into a meeting, and it doesn't happen so much anymore, but in the beginning of my career, I'm the blonde with big tits. So that's how I initially get a meeting. And I knew that. So I was young, a little bit younger, but I said, okay, I'm going to try to utilize this. And then I realized it was just fucking wrong. Well, now, as I'm a little bit older and I'm a senior rep, I have women, and it's not so much on the customer side. It's always in my company that I work for.
Side, right?
And it's on the sales side, and it has nothing to do with my current employer. So I just want to throw that disclaimer out. If you're listening, I love you guys. But I have people in my industry, in my companies and on the sales side that are, oh, she's banging the customer. Oh, she's doing this, she's doing that. No, I care about my customers. I care about my job. I care about my career. I have 2 daughters, and it's always some other woman that's bashing me, or, it's just assumed that where I'm at because I screwed somebody. This toxic woman shit needs to stop, because I'm not saying you have to support me just because I'm a woman, but you better fucking get on board, because you're going to be unemployed eventually. I don't care if you're a CISO or you've opened your own company, you better get on board, because it doesn't matter what gender, color, whatever you are, we are here and it happens. And there's an assumption because I'm a blonde with boobs and I'm fit, that I'm just a dumbass and I'm like sucking somebody off in the corner.
I'm not afraid of you because of the blonde and the big things. I'm afraid of you because of this. You know,
that's why I'm afraid of Maril. I saw her fitness pictures.
Look at that.
She's fitness too. But see, here's the thing. I hold 2 master's degrees. I'm a single mother. Should you really judge me based off the way that I look because I'm pretty? Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I customers love me because of the time that I put in. And this I want to speak to all sales reps. Just because you have good relationships with customers and they like you and they follow you from job to job, which has happened to me, does not mean I'm sleeping with them. It means that I give service. Mm-hmm. Customers trust me and tell me way more stuff than a guy that has been doing business with them for years. You want to know why? Because it's proven that women have a little bit of a softer skill, which can also be a weakness. But we also have more
empathy. They have more active listening.
Yeah. Like, well, that's what it takes to actually lead the next generation. Because like I do have 3 women on my SOC. It's not common. You don't ever see a SOC that has so many women on it. But my SOC does. It's so great too, because like I get to actually mentor them and say, hey, if this ever happens to you, don't take that shit. Like, just stop and tell them to knock it the fuck off, because that's not what you're going to deal with here.
But people will still throw shade at
back to the facts.
People will still throw shade at Nathalie. They'll be like, oh, you only hired all women on your SOC because you're a woman. And it's like, no, that's not the only reason.
And I think, unfortunately, we're going to see that. Yeah. This is the sad part with society. No matter whether you hire all white men, you're going to say, oh, they only hired them because they're white men. When maybe they're the only ones that applied and you had to fill the slots. I'm not saying that's a fact, but that may happen.
Or they're going to tell you, I'm tired of this woman shit and your little girly shit. I'm tired of this.
We're tired of seeing the women take over.
And that's what I'm getting at. It's like you said, hiring all women. Yeah. No, maybe they were the ones that applied and they were the best fit for the fucking job.
They were the best fit for the job. Period. End of story. They were the best fit for the job.
Let's
like there's nothing to do, and this is where gender and race and everything goes out the window. We need to hire the best fit for the job,
regardless,
not the best
End of
fit
story.
for the
look. Which speaks to why we want to enable women to have these skills. Like, we want the women to get the skills they need to stand a good chance. And also, my original brand, that's why I didn't lean into being a woman at all. People would be like on podcasts, like, what's your opinion as a woman on this? What's your woman in tech opinion on this? And I'm like, why do I have a woman opinion and not just a qualified expert opinion? Yeah. And I leaned into my skills and my work performance more than my femininity, because I didn't want to be known for that. I wanted to be known for the badass work that I do. And actually, most of the men I worked with thought I was a dude. When they met me in person, they're like, yeah, we're looking for this Maril guy. I'm like, that's me. I'm Maril. They're like, oh, shit. You're a woman.
That's okay, Maril. They think my name's Nate, so if that makes you feel any better.
So I lean into the feminine now. I'm embracing it now, obviously, but like, it took a long time because I was like, they're just gonna rip me apart if I go in there as a woman. I just gotta meet them on their level for them to even take me seriously, and that is some bullshit.
Okay, so another point that I want your opinion in this, because I hear it a lot from our members, is men will apply to any job, even if they are not full there. Women and minorities will look at a job and say, you know, if I don't fit all these qualifications, I shouldn't apply. How are you guys tackling that problem of that self-assurance to go ahead and say, you know what, 75% of the I can do, and I can learn it. Go.
We are addressing that by teaching you how to market yourself, market your skills, and we have an entire episode called
Personal Brand
Energy. Bring the big dick energy. Because when people ask me how I got my jobs on literally no skills, like, you've got people out here with masters and pen testing certs up the ass and GAIC soup after their name. And like, we don't get it. We're having a hard time finding a job, and Maril talked her way into a job on nothing. Like, I literally started learning pen testing after I became a pen tester. And they're like, how did you do that? I'm like, because I went into that interview and told them, this is what I know. This is how I perform. This is how I can help you. This is where you're going. This is how I'm going to get you there. And you already know I can do it. And they're like, yeah, but we can't do that like you. Like, we can't just roll up in there like you and speak. I'm like, why not? Why the hell
Yes.
not?
Well, and part of the problem is the job descriptions. I know that a lot of people talk about
Oh,
this on
those suck.
LinkedIn. Is they say entry level, but you have to have 3 to 5 years, whatever. So people they detour people, companies that are having a D&I or diversity and blah, we love you, but they write job descriptions that don't make sense.
Right.
So they do that on purpose so people do not apply for those jobs. We will talk about this on our podcast, and we're going to talk about it so many times. It is a deterrent, and they do that because they don't want the wrong person in the job, which is minority or woman.
Yeah.
And they're never going to
That's
admit
not
that.
me.
Hold up. Let me stop you right there, because I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is
Yes.
you have people that go out there, scrape job recs and scrape, different requirements, and just slap a job description together without ever reviewing it. So
That's
it's a
correct.
combination of the two. But what I will say is this: when it comes to experience, if it's an entry level for cyber, I will say you should never have to have any cyber experience if it's entry level.
Correct.
However, I will add to this: if they are looking, especially as a consulting company, for entry level, you should have IT experience as a consultant entry level.
Hold on.
irks me.
Somebody just sent me something I want to share with you guys.
This irks me, and this is another topic I'm passionate about because I do have a master's in human resource management. These job descriptions suck, and there's people that call that out. Job.
Well, and
love
I'm
that.
actually a hiring manager, and I refuse to do that shit because it's just it looks so
I love
bad. Like you'll never get somebody to meet all those
at it.
criteria.
That's why I tell people to reverse interview. I'm like, you know what you need to do? All you need to do when they're like, tell me about yourself. I'm like, that's not your opportunity to be like, I'm 30, I have 2 kids, I like to hike on the weekends. That's your opportunity to say, that's your opportunity to say, what are the needs of this job? What challenges are you hoping this role will overcome? What project is this role working on? They pretty much tell you it's a cloud migration, it's a standing up of this thing, it's a revamping of this thing. You go, great, here's how I uniquely address the needs that you have. Any questions from you? No? Let's do this. You don't just give them everything. If you're solving everything and telling everything, you're telling them nothing. So we're going to tell people how to do that, how to qualify the project, how to interview properly, how to interview them back. It's a two-way street. And by the way,
also, I've found that thinking through the process while you're interviewing as entry level, like that really will help because you could be right on the right track, but maybe you don't have quite the right answer. Like you're on the right page, you have the right process thinking, but you're not quite there yet. You can learn that. That's easy to learn. I can't teach you. It's hard to teach people the process thing.
I tell everybody that when I give interview skills for entry-level people, do not be afraid of to say, I will research that. I will Google it. I will use YouTube. For me, if anybody's interviewing to get a job with me, I always give them a scenario that should force them to say, I don't know that. I will Google it.
That's what I do. And then in your follow-up email, you say, I thought more about that thing. I didn't have an answer back then, but I've already learned so much on this topic. Now I understand this. Now I understand you were looking for this. And now I understand that I have learned this concept that I didn't know 2 hours ago. And you show them in the follow-up email, look, I already took the initiative to go out and learn that thing. And to speak to something Derek said earlier, the reason why men will apply for that job and women will not is, no offense, I love you all, and I know parents are doing our very best job as a single parent myself, I understand, but men are raised to think they can take on the world. Men are raised to think that they cannot fail, that like, get them, son, you're gonna make that field goal. You're gonna get that
correct.
You're gonna nail it every time. And women are taught to think, ooh, are you sure? You might want to reevaluate. I was like, Mom, I want to be a lawyer at one point. She goes, a lot of starving lawyers out there. It's very saturated. Are you sure?
It's very hard.
Yes.
And that is
carry that with us. Yeah, we carry that with us.
You know what I call my daughter? Do you know what I call my daughter?
What?
I call her the
Slugger?
tough chick.
Ah, yes.
Tough chick.
Tough chick. She's always been the tough chick. Well, she had 7 brothers to contend to. So.
Well, she learned from an early age then.
Wow.
So
7.
So, I get kind of conflicted a lot because you have the masculinity factor of I was raised women take care of the money and always have a job and take care of the family. And if you can't provide for your family, and if you show weakness, then you're down. What are you doing?
Hey, Jess,
Women
I
are
have a
women.
very petty way I would address that. I'll go over in a second.
Yeah.
You
Hey,
want
So-
I would
so
just
you
like
do
to
all
call
this.
out a comment on LinkedIn. Justin Haggerty asked what gender gap question mark.
What gender gap?
Oh,
Yeah.
holy
Oh, wow.
shit,
So,
really?
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just saw this
Go.
on Meryl.
Is this like global warming?
No,
Are we still
I'm
debating?
gonna-
this
I'm
gonna-
hold up. Let
what
me pull up my
gender
chair.
gap-
I'm gonna let
What
y'all
gender
go.
grab? What gender grab? Smiley face, laughing. Dude, Justin, you need to go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. But there is a fucking gender gap, and it's not just in IT.
I hope that
I
was
am-
a joke. I
That was
really
on
do.
your post, girl.
I hope
Love
that was
you.
a joke. If I say that on my post, we're gonna have a day. Let me tell
I'm
you.
gonna sit here and let y'all go off.
It's
I've already
already
had
done.
it.
I'm gonna just
Meryl-
sit back and watch.
I've already had 2 meals. Do not
Meryl,
give me a
Meryl,
fucking
Meryl.
reason, okay?
Go
I'm
look,
on 5.
Go look
No,
on
I
your
can't go look
post.
right now.
Do it, because this fucker right here. What gender gap?
Oh, I'm
Eh, again, what I said about women bitching about cybersecurity. He can just kiss everybody's ass.
Look
Fuck
at me
you,
in my
dude.
eyeballs. I bet you
And that's
got
to
your
his
job
boss.
because
Hey,
you're
Drew, I
somebody's
love you,
son.
homie.
I bet you got your job because you're somebody's overprivileged son, and I hope to God whatever girlfriend who deigns to put up with your ass promptly puts on her heels and struts the fuck out the door.
You know
That's
what?
what I hope.
I interrupted you, and you know what? He deserved to be schooled because there is a gender gap. And let's just talk about how there is still a pay gap in most industries.
Mhm.
So, and not to mention, I will put this statistic out on my fucking social media. I'm just going to say this about Asian women in cybersecurity. They have the hardest time moving up and getting into cyber. I'm not trying to single them out, but let's just talk about that. There is a fucking gender gap, and you need to recognize or you're going to end up unemployed and begging on the corner like the guy I just fucking saw today.
Yeah.
Bye, Felicia.
I know a female who's a chief security officer, and she literally makes like 50% of what a male chief security officer is Googled to make. And I'm like, why? Why do you put up with that? And she goes, because I'm just happy to be here. Like, I'm just grateful they gave me the job at all. It goes to speak to what Erika said. Like, we're like, oh, we don't want to give entry-level people the chance to work in security. Everyone's like, our security is so precious. We can't trust you with it. I'm like, you already suck at security. You suck at enterprise security so bad. You're not even doing the CIS first 6 correctly. So shut up. You can't possibly be doing any worse if you let someone try than you're doing right freaking now. Like,
Don't poke the hornet's nest.
Oh God, I'm again.
Hold on.
Maybe you guys can
Meryl,
watch the comment.
Meryl, ready?
Oh, here, let me. I'm gonna take a picture of that and send it to him because he's a nice little gem. There you go, right there.
I did that for you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Love you.
Anyway.
So on that note, though, real quick, Meryl, before you continue, because of the stats that we just put up, I've got to ask this question because it does pose a very interesting question because I've seen conflicting viewpoints on it. And you know me, I like to learn from everybody. So the viewpoint that I have seen is that if women were paid if women have the same experience as the male, they should be equal to the male, correct?
You think?
We're correct in that, right?
You would think.
You would think.
You would think. So is there a way, or do we have any statistics to prove? Because I think some of this comes into where a woman hits a level 1, the male may have been there for 5 years, gets paid more, and they're saying a pay gap. Maybe. But if they're both equal, they should be both paid the same. Are we seeing that differentiation besides the CISO or the CSO that Erika just mentioned?
I'll tell you
Or
from
Meryl,
personal
actually.
experience.
Let
that,
Natalie talk about this.
I
That's what I wanna
literally
know.
when I was first brought in and I first came back into the IT field, because you have to imagine I was on active duty military. I was told you're going to do IT, knew nothing about IT. And I was just like, we'll give it a shot.
Let's
and
have
I
fun.
did my best. And then I loved it. So then I came back and I went to school for IT and network security. And then I ended up having to take a job back as a paralegal for a little while just to like get my rent paid and all that, my bills paid, so that I could actually get into the field. Because back then we were only at 11%. Crazy. So now we're at like 24%, but like I can tell you there have been jobs that I've been hired at where I had higher certifications than men did that were there, that like actually had valid certifications. My certifications were higher than theirs were, and I was getting paid $3 less an hour at least.
And see, that bothers me, and those are the situations where I validate the statement that women get paid less than men. What I think some of the problem comes into is when you look historically, women, because of the way society was, years and years ago, we're looking at 40 years ago now? What was it?
Yep.
The 80s, late 80s, maybe early 80s, where women really started coming into the workforce.
Mhm.
But you're still looking at 40 years.
Yeah,
Where
and
women
honestly,
have been in the workforce now for 40, 50 years. And because they weren't in cyber or IT, so now we're looking at even less years, that people are using that relationship of, oh, well, they've only been in the workforce X amount of years. This guy's been in X amount of years, so we're going to pay him more. When in reality, to Natalie's point, actually, she knows a hell of a lot more, but because maybe she's just hitting your company later, we're going to pay her less, but we're going to pay this guy more.
yeah, honestly,
Correct.
my sister works in data science. Like there's literally another one to be running around, but she's a data scientist. And she was literally
Shit, I got to hide.
She was literally working as a lead data scientist on a team, and she had an intern working underneath her. And when he got brought on from an intern to an FTE, he was literally being paid 40% more than she was with less experience. And he hadn't even been she'd been at the org longer. And she was like, as his lead, I can see what he makes. Like, what's going on here? They're like, well, look at him. He's a rock star. If we don't pay him up the yin yang, he's going to go somewhere else. She's like, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Right?
Like, I'm not kidding. Like, sadly, every single woman in cyber is going to have a story about salary gap that's close to her because we all experience it. Like,
and that's what I wanted you to present, is that information, because there has been so much counteractive information against it of, oh, well, they entered the workforce later. They're doing this later. They're transitioning later. They don't have the experience.
Come find me and fight me.
So I wanted way you could present the facts and the data that supports exactly what you're talking about, so that nobody can come at you and say, oh, this isn't true. This is a fact.
And even if we are coming into the workforce later on, like we are coming from a second career, like this is our second career, we still bring value from that other career field. Like I was a paralegal. I can read through any document, any policy that you want to hand me, and I know what my liability is as a person, what our company liability is. Like there's not many SOC managers that can speak to liability in a legal sense and understand what legal liability actually means and what kind of coverage you need on your insurance. Like, we still bring value from our other career fields in.
Natalie, you would make a great expert witness.
You would.
Oh my God.
That's my goal. That's my life goal.
You guys also know that minorities suffer from the pay gap as well.
Yeah,
correct.
They sure do.
And now let me ask you this, Eric, and all the women. How much of it is a lack of willingness because you're trying to get into the career field or you're trying to get that job, is the lack of willingness to fight for the pay on initial
let me say this for a second. Why in cybersecurity do we not have transparency of job salaries? Why isn't that companies refuse to get with the program and say, I have a position making $145,000 a year. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, green.
This is what it pays.
This is what we're hiring for.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Erica.
Because they all want to hide behind the experience clause. Like, oh, we would pay $150 for this position, but since you only have so many years of experience, we're only going to pay you $90. And and you'll be happy to take it. You're like, thank you for getting me out of my $70K year job. I'm so happy to be here. I'm just gonna take it.
Can I just ask why companies are having to take a chance on people who have like 10 years of experience, of IT experience. Like, why are you still trying to take a chance on me? I'm not a chance here. Like,
You know,
So-
Go
I
ahead, Erica.
hate it when they
Erica
hate
is like doing the woosah right now.
go, Erica, go.
Okay. So
Someone took a chance on me. Look at me. Do I suck?
take a chance on me. That was.
But
in
people are
Mamma
still
Mia,
trying to
the
take
movie.
a chance on me, Meryl.
So, all right. So first of all, I'm going to address two things. So, if you already work for a company and you get promoted, let's say you're a SOC analyst and you get promoted to SOC manager, they use or even in a rep, like if you're an inside rep and you get promoted to field, they use the bullshit excuse that we can only advance you about 5 to 10% because you're an internal employee, but yet they hired, ABC at, double your salary because he's external. We know that this happens. Somebody external comes in, they get a higher salary. The reason that they do this is because HR is given a number. You need to hire between this pay range, and HR is very strategic because they get bonuses, and so does marketing, and so does blah, blah, blah. If you can hire between this range, but on the lower range or the higher range, you'll get a higher bonus, or your department will get more money, whatever. It's all, they get incentivized to tell you, oh, this is the high, the range. And they already know, like for an enterprise sales account executive, they already know that with your base and, commission, you can make $200,000 a year, but this company's going to say, we're going to pay you 205, with a half base, half commission. We're going to pay you 205. That's higher than the normal. They get bonuses tied to that, and their departments have, KPIs, what they call it. I'll explain this in another episode, but it's basically a bonus structure that if you get an employee at this, you guys get that. Everything is tied to
performance indicators.
performance. Correct.
So
and
I worked for a company that the way they did salary was they paid you a lower salary and said, hey, we're going to give you bonuses quarterly
yes.
based on how we perform, but we project it to be this much. Now,
Yes.
retiring out of the Army, I needed a job. I fucking took it. But
So
the realization came in and when I told them after, being there for a week, how the fuck can I pay my electric bill after over a maybe payment? Like, really?
Correct.
Yep.
So like bonuses and base salary and compensation, I saw a wonderful breakdown of like, for sales reps were like, here's your quota. This is what's tied to the executive. That's what is tied to the company. And they basically, like for sales reps, when they set our quotas, they say, this is what your quota is based off of your territory. But they give that same quota to like every other rep when only like 10 to 20% are meeting quota. They expect not to pay you that, which is a different subject overall. But when you go to an organization, they give you that salary range because they know that that is a satisfaction or a comfort factor that you could be between this and this, because they've done the market research. For a project manager, you're going to get paid this, or a pre-sales engineer, we're going to give you a base of 200,000 because it's a 70-30 split, and your commission tied to these sales reps going to be this, so you'll make a total compensation package of 300,000.
We're gonna go for one last question, okay? So before we wrap it up here, so as you were saying, there's times that you're renegotiating your salary. You're leaving. They want to keep you here, and companies do this thing where they say, we'd like to match your salary or do something like that, but we only have 10%. But they will hire a new person for 25% more.
Correct.
Okay.
That bites those companies in the ass in the long run, because here's the thing. It takes a lot longer to train that talent right back up. And if you have to retrain talent, like that's a lot of costs on an employer. So like at the end of the day, in my opinion, you're better off just to pay your quality talent that you have to retain them. But by the time that you're making that decision to leave your company, you've already decided this is not the right company for me anymore. I need to move on. Like by that time,
marriage, you spend a lot of time with each other. If you don't love it.
Correct.
Yeah.
I love the dancing meme
Those dancing
because
granny, she's here every episode, Erica. You need to watch every episode. She shows up every week.
Well, and companies they measure their risk, and everything is attached to their bottom line. So when they give you a range, they already know that you're going to say yes or no based off of market research. And when you go into an interview, I don't give a shit if you're a salesperson or not. You need to challenge them on that range, because that is just what the minimum that they're going to pay you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go in and say, this is my max, this is what I want. These are the benefits tied to it. And then they're going to say, well, the compensation package as a whole includes your benefits, your,
sounds like the
your
military
insurance.
now.
Culture.
Come on now. I get
And
to that all the
culture.
time.
We give you ping pong and beer.
We do advocate for total compensation, especially in entry level roles.
Correct.
But sometimes know your worth and know when to push back, I think, is the key.
Correct.
There.
Correct.
Also, I will say for my company, I recently recommended 2 of my personal friends, like 2 personal people that I know, to come work at my company. And they were like, well, what is it paying? And I'm like, honestly, my bosses didn't post the salary. I kind of hate that, especially because they knew what it was. But I was like, I didn't even ask. I was like, yo, I just referred these 2 women. Okay, what are they looking to make? This one deserves to make at least this much, and this one deserves to make at least this much. I don't even care what you were hoping to pay. If you don't pay them at least that, then I am ashamed I recommended them to work here. My bosses were like, oh, that's lower than what we were thinking, so we'll just offer them like the minimum, if we do offer them, of like what we wanted to pay. Like they're like, we're not here to shortchange anyone for 10, 15K a year. Yeah, like it's worth it to like make someone to go from like I can barely get by to like make them super happy so that they stay with you longer, because like
that's the big thing.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to also kind of promote this fact of when somebody asks you, what do you want to make? I don't give a damn. You come in higher what you're thinking.
Yes.
So if you're going into a job and you're like, man, I only deserve 105. You better go in there saying 120, 130. If you're going in, say 120, 130.
Yeah.
Well,
and you're going to come down and they're going to be like, we'll give you 110 or we'll give you 105. That's still more than what you were thinking. That's still giving you more money than your initial assumption.
And minorities fall victim to this because we've never made that much. So that's a pay bump. As a minority, you're coming from inner city or whatever your background or culture is, you're automatically going to say yes because you want to make that the extra $5,000.
It's not just a pay bump. Sometimes it's a lifestyle change. Like it's a whole lifestyle change when you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars versus just like $1,000 or $2.
Always go in higher than the minimum, because what I do, and look, I will give advice to every woman, minority, and everybody else out there. When someone comes to me and they say, what do you want to make? I don't answer that question. I say, what's your salary range, and come in 10 grand higher. Because then you're going to come in and either meet in the middle or at the very top of it, or you don't want me. Plain and simple.
Right. And
know your worth.
10, 15K might not be a lot to a large corporation, but to me, it's the difference between paying rent and putting my kids in dance class. Like, to me, that's the difference. So like, I don't even tell my company what they were making already. I'm like, it doesn't matter what they make now. I didn't even tell them, oh, they're only making 60, 70. So even 100 would be a bump. I was like, it doesn't matter what they make now. This is what they deserve to make based on their skill. This is what I would pay them if it was my company. And if you're not,
that's why they ask.
Then I unrefer them. I unrefer them here.
Yep. Exactly.
All right.
I could talk about this all day.
We could go on for a long time, but I want to give you guys the last word here. So let's start with Maril.
Damn, do me last. I was just going to say do me last.
Dude, wow, did you really say that, Maril? Did you really
go, Maril,
go?
The pun was intended.
All right, cool. All right, we'll go with Nathalie. She's on the end. Nathalie, let's go.
No, go, Erica. You go first.
I'll go.
Nathalie.
Okay.
Right, Erica.
So the cybersecurity field and IT field overall, I love it. It's the best experience and lifestyle I've ever had. Employers, you are amazing, but you need to understand that you have to market and treat people better coming up, because our Gen Z and Gen Alphas are going to be way freaking smarter than us. I have a lot of positive to say. Please join the podcast. This is the most money I've ever made in my life. I am still very young, but it took me out of poverty as a single mother in my 20s, not being able to make rent, living paycheck to paycheck. We love you guys. I was poor and I got myself out of it. I have a passion for helping single mothers and domestic violence victims, but also minorities and women. So the only thing I ask you to do is do your research. Don't let somebody bully you. And we love you to death. Go make that money because it is out there.
All right. Nathalie or Maril, pick one.
Oh,
Raise your
man,
hand.
now that's hard to follow. Shit, I should
All
have
right,
gone
Nathalie,
first.
go ahead.
You're amazing.
All right,
Well,
Nathalie.
I would just say I hope Gen Z finds something useful out of our podcast. But even if they don't, I think there's a lot of employers out there that should tune in, and a lot of hiring managers out there that should tune in, because we do talk about there's a big difference in managing Gen Z versus managing millennials. And a lot of times millennials are being pulled up into those management ranks to manage the Gen Z because we have very similar views. So at the same time, just I feel that if you watch our podcast, you have a lot to learn from everything all around.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Right, Maril?
I wanted to go last for a reason.
She did.
I gotta say that, first of all, we are so happy to have you. We are here to build a community. We are here to support you in any way that we can. We're here to give you real experiences with unbridled, raw insight. We're not here to water it down. We're here to give you the real of it and the hope of it. Okay, we're not just going to beat you down. We're not just going to hate on cyber. We're also here to build you up and inspire you and give you realistic strategies for navigating a lot of the things that we identify. Additionally, this season, we got coming at you toxic mindsets amongst women, interview strategies, hot niches, but we've also got things like debunking salary expectations because y'all doing it wrong. And a lot of various other things, being the diversity hire, navigating the mindset of sleeping your way to the top, all these things. So we're going to hit on all these things that affect women and are uniquely the women's point of view. And for all those who want to knock on like hitting the Gen Z angle, keep in mind it is aimed at the Gen Z demographic and how we speak and the points that we make. But that is because we're not here to convince anyone who doesn't want to be in cyber away from their current jobs or away from their current lifestyle if they don't want to be. If they do, we're here for them too. But we are targeting them because they are the future, and they are going to outnumber you in the workforce by the end of 2030, which isn't that far off. And by 2025, like they're going to make up about 50-50. By the end of 2030, the hard majority. So if you suck at doing Gen Z right now, like it's an entire LinkedIn learning course, managing Gen Z.
It is.
If you don't relate to your millennials, you definitely won't relate to Gen Z. And if you find millennials annoying, you definitely can't put up with them. We get them. We love them. We're here to support and empower them. That is why we chose them as a demographic. And for them, where diversity is a norm, they're going to bring that with them. And that's what we hope to see. So we're trying to be the change that we hope to see. We hope you come along the journey with us. We love you. If you have any feedback, we do read it all and take it all to heart. I promise. I look at every single comment, every single email, my personal self. So please, by all means, give us that feedback. We want it to be driven by you. If we're not giving value, or if you'd like to see something different, or you'd like us to touch on something and punctuate something for you, we're here for your advocates. We're here for you. Love you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And then for me, as we celebrate Raíces Cyber first year anniversary, I invite all of you to come to this link right here. Join our community on Discord.
Woo!
We have over 700 people. We now have 2 new chapters in San Antonio, and we're building a one in North Carolina. So please come join our community. All of you guys, the Cyber Queens, please join us there. You guys are welcome. This is your family.
That's badass. The queens will be there.
We love you. The queens will be there for sure.
Awesome.
The queens will also be at Uniting Women in Cyber, sponsored by the Cyber Guild, focused at mid-career pivot people into cyber, September 27th. See you there.
And I'm inviting you guys to the Raíces Virtual Con, and I'm going to connect you guys with Women's Cyber Jiu-Jitsu and
Yes, Cyber
Black
Jiu-Jitsu.
Girls Have.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
And
this is awesome.
As we go off air, look, I love you all. This has been an amazing episode. As you know, I bring it all. I bring the Cyber Queens, I've had just about anybody and everybody, and I'm going to keep bringing them on because around here, we don't discriminate. Everybody has a voice. I don't care how new you are. I don't care how long you've been in the field. You have a voice here. This is Security Happy Hour. So look, if you want to support this show, please look in the description below because all the ways you can support CyberWarriorStudios and Security Happy Hour are down there. All the ways you can connect to our amazing guests are down below as well. Whether it be on LinkedIn or Twitter, I got it all. So, without further ado, please enjoy the rest of your evening. This is Wasted Wednesday. Thanks to Erika for giving me that term. And I will catch you all next week.